In the quaint, shadow-drenched town of Eldridge Hollow, nestled between looming mountains and dense, whispering forests, there lived a woman named Elena Vasquez. At 28, Elena had always been an enigma, a tapestry woven with threads of silence. Her mute existence was not by choice. A childhood accident had robbed her of her voice, leaving her with a profound sense of isolation. In a world dominated by sound, where laughter echoed and conversations flowed like rivers, Elena found herself adrift, often retreating into the sanctuary of her thoughts. Elena's days were spent wandering the narrow cobblestone streets of Eldridge Hollow, her long chestnut hair trailing like a shadow behind her. She had a striking appearance, piercing green eyes that sparkled with intelligence and a softness that belied her strength. Yet, despite her beauty, she often felt like an outcast, a spectre haunting the edges of social interactions, unable to connect with others through words. Instead, she communicated through expressive gestures, a skill honed over years of silence. In her solitude, she found solace in art, painting her thoughts and feelings onto canvas, creating vibrant worlds that spoke the words she could not. Eldridge Hollow was known for its eerie legends, tales of spirits that roamed the forest at night, of whispers carried on the wind that warned of dangers lurking just beyond the tree line. The townsfolk often spoke in hushed tones about the Whispering Woods, a sprawling expanse of ancient trees that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Elena was drawn to this place, feeling an inexplicable pull towards its mysteries. Perhaps it was the loneliness that compelled her to seek out the unknown, or perhaps it was the latent desire for connection, an urge that simmered beneath the surface of her calm demeanor. One foggy evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the town, Elena ventured into the Whispering Woods. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The deeper she wandered, the more the sounds of the town faded, replaced by the rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. It was here, in the heart of the woods, that she felt truly alive. The trees seemed to welcome her, their gnarled branches twisting like fingers reaching out to embrace her solitude. As night enveloped the forest, a strange luminescence caught her eye. Intrigued, she followed the glow, her heart racing with a mix of fear and excitement. There, nestled between the roots of an ancient oak, was a pulsing orb of light. It shimmered like a star fallen to earth, casting an otherworldly glow that illuminated her features. As she reached out to touch it, a jolt of energy surged through her, filling her with warmth and wonder. In that moment, everything changed. The air crackled with electricity, and the orb expanded, revealing a swirling portal. The very fabric of reality seemed to ripple as Elena stood, entranced. It was then that she first caught a glimpse of him. A hulking figure stepping through the portal. He was unlike anything she had ever seen. An alien monster, his skin shimmering with iridescent hues, his eyes glowing with an ancient wisdom that sent shivers down her spine. Elena felt a rush of emotions, fear, awe, and an unexpected sense of belonging. Without uttering a single word, she found herself communicating with this being. It was a language of thoughts and feelings, a connection that transcended the barriers of sound. Zarkon, as she would come to know him, was not there to harm her. Instead, he was drawn to her, sensing a kindred spirit in her solitude. As they stood together beneath the sprawling branches of the ancient oak, the night air thick with the scent of damp earth and something else, something electric, Elena felt the weight of her silence lift. Zarkon's presence ignited a spark within her, a connection that transcended her muteness and opened the door to a world beyond her wildest dreams. But beneath the wonder of their meeting lay a darkness, an impending storm that would soon threaten not only their newfound bond, but the very fabric of Eldridge Hollow itself. As the alien emerged from the swirling portal, Elena's heart raced. The air around her thrummed with an energy that seemed to resonate with her very being. Zarkon towered over her, his muscular frame outlined by the pulsating light of the orb. He possessed a rough, otherworldly beauty, his skin shimmering like the surface of a distant star, shifting colours from deep blue to emerald green. His eyes, large and luminous, glowed with an intensity that made her feel both vulnerable and seen. "Elena," he spoke, but it wasn't with sound. It was as if the words flowed directly into her mind, each syllable reverberating with an ethereal echo. It was a voice unlike any she had ever heard, rich and warm, full of ancient knowledge and power. "You are not alone." Eleanor's breath hitched in her throat. The way he pronounced her name felt intimate, as if he had known her all her life. Unable to respond verbally, she nodded slowly, taking a hesitant step closer, drawn to him as if by an invisible thread. She could sense his curiosity about her, a deep desire to understand the silence that surrounded her. In this moment, the weight of her isolation began to lift. Zarkon gestured to the orb, and the light enveloped them both, casting ethereal patterns across the forest floor. Images danced within the glow, visions of distant galaxies, worlds teeming with life, and landscapes so vibrant they seemed almost unreal. Elena felt a wave of emotions wash over her. Joy, sorrow, longing. It was as if Zarkon was sharing the essence of his existence, and she found herself captivated. "I come from a place beyond your understanding," he continued, his voice wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. "A realm where silence is a power, not a weakness. You possess a strength that you do not yet know, a potential that must be awakened." Elena's pulse quickened. The idea of having power, something she had yearned for all her life, was intoxicating. She had often dreamed of being able to speak, to command attention and respect. But this was different. This was a chance to become something more than herself, to transcend the limitations of her body and the constraints of her silent world. With a swift motion, Zarkon extended his hand, the tips of his fingers glowing with a soft light. Hesitantly, Elena reached out, their fingers brushing against one another. The moment their skin met, a jolt of energy surged through her, a rush of warmth flooding her veins. It felt as if a dam had burst, releasing a torrent of emotions and sensations that had been trapped inside her for years. "Feel it," he urged, his eyes locking onto hers. "This is only the beginning." In an instant, the forest around them began to change. The trees swayed rhythmically, their leaves shimmering like the stars above. Elena could hear the whispers of the woods more clearly now, the soft murmurs of the earth beneath her feet. The world was alive, pulsating with energy, and she felt a connection to it that she had never experienced before. Suddenly, the light from the orb intensified, enveloping them completely. In that blinding brilliance, Elena saw flashes of herself, her life, her struggles, her dreams, all intertwined with Zarkon's essence. She was soaring through the sky, feeling the wind rush past her face. She was strong, powerful, and unbound by her silence. But then the vision shifted, darkening, showing her a terrifying future. Shadows loomed over Eldridge Hollow, tendrils of darkness creeping into the town, threatening to consume everything she held dear. Panic surged within her, and she gasped, pulling away from Zarkon's grasp. "What is happening?" she thought, fear racing through her mind. "The darkness approaches," Zarkon responded, his tone somber. "It seeks to exploit your power for its own ends. But you have the strength to fight it. Together, we can protect your world." Elena stared at him, uncertainty swirling in her heart. Could she really wield such power? Could she be the protector of Eldritch Hollow? It felt both exhilarating and terrifying. She had spent her life feeling like a ghost, unseen and unheard, and now the fate of her town rested in her hands. "You must choose," Zarkon said, his voice steady. "Embrace your destiny, Elena. Accept the power that is yours." Elena took a deep breath, her mind racing. Memories of her lonely night spent painting in her small apartment flooded back to her. Each stroke of her brush a whisper of her unvoiced thoughts. Here, in the presence of Zarkon, she felt the walls she had built around herself beginning to crumble. She could either retreat into her silence or step into the light of her potential. With a newfound determination, Elena stepped closer to Zarkon, her hand reaching out once more. This time she grasped his hand tightly, feeling the warmth radiating between them. "I choose to fight," she thought, the words echoing in her mind, stronger than any sound. "Then let it begin," Zarkon replied, his eyes alight with approval. As they stood together beneath the ancient oak, the orb of light flared brighter, surrounding them both in a cocoon of energy. Elena felt a rush of power surge through her, filling every fibre of her being. She gasped as her senses expanded, each detail of the forest around her sharpening to a vivid clarity. She could feel the heartbeat of the earth, the pulse of life coursing through the roots of the trees, and the whispers of the winds that carried secrets of the night. But with the exhilaration came a tremor of fear. As the light enveloped her, she realized that this was not merely an awakening, it was a transformation. Her body tingled with a new energy, and she felt her muscles strengthen, her mind sharpen, and her spirit rise. But what would this new power demand of her? What sacrifices would she have to make? The forest hummed with anticipation as Elena and Zarkon stood on the threshold of a new beginning, the shadows of the future looming ever closer, a reminder that their time was limited. Together they would face the darkness that threatened to engulf Eldritch Hollow, and Elena was determined to discover the full extent of her powers, whatever the cost. Elena stood in the radiant glow of the orb, feeling a surge of energy coursing through her body. The air around her crackled with electricity, and the very ground beneath her feet seemed to pulse in rhythm with her racing heart. It was a heady feeling, intoxicating and terrifying all at once. She was no longer just Elena Vasquez, the mute artist lost in the shadows of Eldritch Hollow. She was becoming something extraordinary. As the light began to fade, Elena looked at Zarkon, who was still holding her hand. His presence was grounding, a reminder that she was not alone in this bizarre new reality. His eyes shone with an alien brilliance, reflecting pride and reassurance. "You have begun to awaken the power within you," he said, his voice resonating in her mind. "But the journey ahead will not be easy. You will need to train, to learn how to harness your abilities." What abilities? She thought, a mix of excitement and apprehension flooding her senses. She felt different, but also aware of the uncertainty that lay ahead. Her body hummed with potential, yet she had no clue how to wield it. Zarkon squeezed her hand gently, and she felt a wave of warmth wash over her. "You will discover them in time. For now, we must leave this place. The darkness I sensed earlier is not far behind." Elena's heart raced at the mention of darkness. She glanced back at the shimmering orb, which now appeared as a small pulsing star nestled among the roots of the ancient oak. With one last look, she let go of Zarkon's hand and stepped away from the light. The forest, once so inviting, now felt ominous, shadows stretching like fingers in the fading twilight. Together they ventured deeper into the whispering woods, the path illuminated by the silver glow of the moon overhead. As they walked, Zarkon shared stories of his home, a distant planet where silence was revered and communication transcended spoken words. He explained how his people thrived on emotion and thought, using their minds to connect with one another in ways that Elena could only begin to imagine. "Your silence is a gift," Zarkon explained, glancing at her with a knowing smile. "You have the potential to tap into energies that others cannot perceive. With practice, you will learn to manipulate the very fabric of your reality." Elena listened intently, feeling a swell of hope. For the first time, her muteness seemed like a strength rather than a hindrance. The idea of becoming something more, something powerful, ignited a spark within her that banished the shadows of self-doubt. After what felt like hours of walking, they arrived at a clearing bathed in moonlight. The trees formed a natural amphitheatre, their branches arching overhead, like the grand columns of an ancient temple. In the centre of the clearing was a large flat stone, smooth and gleaming in the moonlight. Zarkon gestured towards it. "This will be your training ground. Here you will learn to harness your abilities and become the protector your town needs." "What do I need to do?" Elena thought, her heart pounding with anticipation. She felt the weight of expectation settling over her, but she also felt an exhilarating rush of determination. She was ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. "Close your eyes," Zarkon instructed, his voice soothing. "Focus on your breathing. Feel the energy around you, the pulse of the earth, the rhythm of the wind, the life within every living thing. Let it flow through you." Elena nodded and closed her eyes, inhaling deeply. The cool night air filled her lungs, and she let it out slowly, feeling the tension begin to fade. With each breath, she tried to attune herself to the world around her. At first, all she could hear were the sounds of the forest, the rustle of leaves, the distant chirping of crickets, but gradually she began to perceive something deeper. A warmth enveloped her, a gentle caress that resonated with her very core. She felt the heartbeat of the earth, a steady rhythm that matched her own. The energy surged within her, growing stronger with each breath. Images flashed before her mind's eye, colors swirling, shapes shifting, emotions flowing like a river. It was overwhelming, yet exhilarating, a cacophony of sensations that filled her with purpose. "Now channel that energy," Zarkon urged. "Let it rise within you. Visualize it. Feel it." Elena concentrated harder, envisioning the energy coalescing into a bright, glowing orb in the center of her chest. She imagined it expanding, filling her with warmth and light. Suddenly, she felt a powerful surge and her eyes flew open. The clearing was ablaze with color, a kaleidoscope of swirling lights that danced in the air around her. "Good," Zarkon exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement. "You're beginning to connect with the energy. Now let's see if you can project it. Focus on the stone. Visualize it glowing, just as you are." Elena's heart raced as she turned her gaze to the stone in the center of the clearing. She concentrated, willing the energy to flow from her and into the stone. At first, nothing happened, but as she continued to visualize the connection, she felt a rush of warmth flood her hands. Slowly, the stone began to glow, first faintly, and then with increasing intensity until it illuminated the entire clearing. "Yes, you did it!" Zarkon's voice was filled with pride. "You have a natural affinity for this power. Now remember, with great power comes great responsibility. You must learn to control it, to direct it, and to use it wisely." As the glow of the stone faded, a sense of exhilaration surged through her. Elena had done something extraordinary. She had tapped into a power she never knew she possessed. The fear of the unknown was still there, lurking in the back of her mind, but now it was overshadowed by an overwhelming sense of possibility. "But what if I can't control it? What if I hurt someone?" she thought, the doubts creeping back in. "That is a risk we all face," Zarkon replied, his tone steady. "But you will not be alone. I will be here to guide you, to help you learn. Together, we will face whatever comes our way." Elena nodded, feeling the weight of his words settle in her heart. She was determined to rise to the challenge, to become the protector Zarkon believed her to be. But as she stood in the moonlit clearing, she couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The darkness that Zarkon had sensed earlier was still out there, lurking, waiting for the moment to strike. "Let's continue your training," Zarkon said, breaking her reverie. "We will need to prepare you for what is to come. The more you learn, the stronger you will become." As they began the next phase of her training, Elena couldn't shake the thought that their time was limited. But with every breath, every moment spent harnessing her newfound abilities, she felt a glimmer of hope. The darkness that threatened Eldridge Hollow might have its own power, but she was determined to rise to the challenge and defend her home, with Zarkon by her side. Under the shimmering light of the moon, Elena continued her training with Zarkon, their connection deepening with each passing moment. As they practiced, she began to sense not only her own powers, but also the unique essence that radiated from Zarkon. He was more than just an alien being. He was a complex entity, filled with history, purpose, and an untold depth of emotion. After an intense session of energy projection, they took a break, sitting together on the cool grass of the clearing. The world around them seemed to hum with life, and the air was thick with the scent of pine and earth. Elena watched as Zarkon's skin shifted colors, reflecting the nuances of his emotions. Deep blues when he was calm, vibrant greens when he felt pride, and fiery reds when he experienced excitement. It was mesmerizing and a little overwhelming, revealing a richness to his character that she hadn't yet fully appreciated. "Tell me about your home, Zarkon," Elena thought, curiosity bubbling within her. "What is it like?" He regarded her with a soft smile, his luminous eyes gleaming in the moonlight. "My home is called Sapphira," he began, his voice flowing smoothly in her mind. "It is a world of vibrant colors and floating landscapes, where the skies are filled with luminescent clouds. Silence is a treasure there. We communicate through feelings, thoughts, and shared experiences. Every interaction is a dance of energy, a blending of our essences." Elena listened intently, captivated by his description. She imagined a world where words were unnecessary, where connection was forged through pure emotion. It sounded beautiful and enchanting, a stark contrast to the isolation she often felt. "But there is a darkness that encroaches upon my world," Zarkon continued, his expression shifting to one of concern. "An ancient force, one that seeks to consume all that is light and good. My kind have been fighting it for eons, but it grows stronger. When I sensed your potential, I knew I had to come to Earth to find you. You have the power to help us, Elena." "Help you? But I don't even know how to control my powers yet," she thought, feeling a swell of self-doubt. "What if I fail? What if I'm not strong enough?" "You are stronger than you realize," Zarkon reassured her, his tone steady. "Your silence is a strength, not a weakness. You have the ability to tap into energies that others cannot perceive. With training, you will be able to harness this power and use it against the darkness. Trust in yourself, just as I trust in you." Elena felt a warmth spread through her at his words, bolstering her confidence. Zarkon's faith in her was a beacon of hope. She realized that perhaps she wasn't just a mute woman in a small town. She was a vital piece of a much larger puzzle, destined to play a significant role in the battle against the encroaching darkness. "What does this darkness look like? How will I recognize it?" Elena asked, her voice filled with urgency. Zarkon's expression darkened, the colors of his skin shifting to deep purples and blacks. "It takes many forms. Sometimes it appears as a shadow, creeping into the hearts of those it touches. Other times it manifests as a monstrous being, feeding off fear and despair. We must be vigilant. It will come for you, for your power. You are a beacon, and the darkness will be drawn to you." Elena shivered at the thought of such malevolence. What can I do to prepare? We must train harder, Zarkon said, his resolve evident. You need to learn to harness not only your energy, but also to tap into the energies around you. The more you understand your abilities, the more effective you will be in combat. With that, they returned to the training ground, the atmosphere shifting from serene to charged with anticipation. Zarkon guided Elena through exercises designed to deepen her connection to the world around her. They practiced projecting energy into the earth, feeling the vibrations of life beneath them, and the essence of the trees that towered overhead. With each passing moment, she became more attuned to the delicate balance of energy that existed within and around her. As the days turned into weeks, Elena's powers grew. She learned to manipulate energy, to draw strength from the earth, and to project it outward. She could create barriers of light, manipulate the wind, and even communicate with the creatures of the forest. Zarkon remained by her side, encouraging her, challenging her, and sharing snippets of his own past, the struggles of his people, and the battles they fought against the encroaching darkness. Why did you leave Zephyra? Elena asked one day as they rested after an intense training session. Zarkon's gaze turned distant, and for a moment, she saw a flicker of sadness in his eyes. I left to seek help, to find a way to protect my home. My people are dwindling, and I felt a calling to come here, to you. I sensed that you had the potential to change everything. But why me? She pressed, wanting to understand the depth of their connection. Because your silence holds a power that my people can only dream of. You see, in Zephyra, we often rely on our emotions to guide us. But you, Elena, you have the ability to tap into the unseen. Your silence allows you to listen to the world in ways we cannot. You are unique, and that uniqueness is your greatest asset. Elena absorbed his words, feeling a mixture of pride and fear. She had always viewed her muteness as a burden, but now she was beginning to see it as a gift, a conduit for strength and connection that could bridge worlds. As her training progressed, so did the bond between them. They shared laughter, quiet moments of understanding, and glimpses into each other's worlds. Zarkon taught her about the stars that twinkled above them, connecting them to the greater universe, and Elena shared her art, expressing her emotions through brushstrokes that told stories of her life. They were both from different worlds, yet they were bound by a shared purpose. However, as they trained, the ominous feeling of an impending threat lingered like a storm cloud on the horizon. The whispers of the forest grew anxious, and the energy around them felt charged with a sense of urgency. Zarkon, ever attuned to the pulse of the universe, sensed it too. "We must be ready," he said one evening, his demeanor shifting to one of seriousness. "I can feel the darkness stirring. It is aware of you, and it is coming." Elena's heart raced at the thought. "What can we do?" "We will need to harness everything you've learned," Zarkon replied, determination etched across his face. "You are stronger than you realize. Trust in your abilities and remember, you are not alone. We will face it together." As the weight of the impending confrontation settled upon them, Elena felt both fear and exhilaration. She was no longer just an observer of her own life. She was a participant in a much larger story. Together, she and Zarkon would confront the darkness, and in doing so, she would discover the full extent of her power and the true nature of her destiny. The days in Eldridge Hollow grew shorter, the sun dipping below the horizon earlier as autumn embraced the town. The trees surrounding the clearing where Elena trained with Zarkon were ablaze with vibrant hues of red, orange, and gold, their leaves whispering secrets in the cool breeze. But despite the beauty of the changing season, a tension loomed in the air, thick and palpable. Elena could feel it in her bones, a whisper of danger just out of reach, like a distant storm brewing on the horizon. One evening, after a particularly grueling training session, Elena and Zarkon sat together beneath the ancient oak tree, the silvery light of the moon filtering through the branches above. She glanced at him, noticing the way his skin shimmered in the moonlight, casting colours that reflected his emotions. A deep green flickered across his arms, signalling his unease. "What's wrong?" Elena asked, her thoughts clear and direct. The bond they shared allowed her to sense the weight of his concern. "You seem troubled." Zarkon turned to her, his expression serious. "I can feel the darkness gathering, Elena. It is growing bolder, and I fear it has begun to hunt for you." "What does that mean? How will it find me?" she asked, a knot tightening in her stomach. "It feeds on fear, despair, and the energies of those who have been consumed by it. As you become stronger, you will inevitably attract its attention. It senses your potential. We must prepare for its arrival." Elena's heart raced at the thought of being hunted. "How do we fight something we cannot see?" Zarkon sighed, the colours of his skin shifting to a deep blue, reflecting his contemplation. "We will learn to harness your abilities further. You must learn to feel the energies around you, to identify the signs of its presence before it manifests." She nodded, determination flooding her veins. "What can I do?" "You will need to practice your energy projection more intensely. We will also work on your ability to sense the emotions of others. The darkness will often manipulate those around you, seeking to turn them against you. If you can sense their fear or despair, you may be able to counteract its influence." The thought of facing such a profound evil sent chills down Elena's spine, but she squared her shoulders, a fire igniting within her. She had already overcome so much, and she would not let fear dictate her actions. "Let's begin," she said firmly. As they resumed their training, Zarkon guided her through exercises designed to deepen her connection to the energy around her. They worked late into the night, the moon casting its ethereal glow over the clearing, illuminating the vibrant bursts of energy that danced between them. Elena practiced projecting her energy, shaping it into forms that could act as shields, barriers, and even weapons. With each attempt, she felt herself growing stronger, more in tune with the world. She could feel the pulse of the earth beneath her feet, the vibrations of life surrounding her, and the faint traces of emotions that lingered in the air. It was exhilarating, and yet, each time she succeeded, a shadow of doubt lingered in the back of her mind. What if it wasn't enough? After what felt like hours, Zarkon called for a break. "You are making remarkable progress," he said, a hint of pride evident in his voice. "But you must remain vigilant. The darkness will come when you least expect it." "How will I know?" Elena asked, wiping the sweat from her brow. "You will feel it. Trust your instincts. The energy will shift, the air will grow heavy, and a chill will settle in your bones." He paused, his expression darkening. "But remember, you are not alone. Together, we will stand against it." As she gazed at him, she felt a mix of gratitude and apprehension. Zarkon had become her ally, her teacher, and perhaps something more. They had forged a bond that transcended their differences, and she felt a sense of duty to protect him as much as he protected her. "I won't let you down," she vowed, her voice steady. "I know you won't," he replied, his colours brightening in response. As the nights turned into a flurry of intense training, the energy between them grew. Each session brought new revelations, new challenges, and an unspoken understanding that their fates were intertwined. Yet, the looming threat of the darkness cast a long shadow over their progress. One particularly chilly night, while they were practicing in the clearing, a sudden gust of wind swept through, rustling the leaves with an eerie urgency. Elena felt it instantly, a prickling sensation at the nape of her neck, a chill that had nothing to do with the autumn air. "Did you feel that?" she asked, turning to Zarkon, her heart racing. "Yes," he replied, his expression shifting to one of alertness. "Something is near. Focus, Elena. Remember what I taught you." They stood back to back, the energy between them crackling like static in the air. Elena closed her eyes, trying to sense the shift in the atmosphere. She concentrated on the world around her, seeking the telltale signs of the darkness lurking in the shadows. The air grew heavy, thick with a malevolent presence. It was as if the very forest held its breath, waiting. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. A dark, amorphous shape that twisted and writhed like smoke. It was the embodiment of dread, its presence suffocating. "Stay calm," Zarkon urged, his voice a steady anchor. "We can't let fear take hold. Remember your training. You must project your energy." Elena felt a surge of adrenaline as she focused, channeling the energy within her. She envisioned it building up, forming a bright shield around them. As she opened her eyes, the darkness lunged forward, tendrils reaching out to engulf them. In that moment, everything slowed. Elena concentrated with all her might, pushing the energy outward. A brilliant light burst forth from her, a radiant shield that illuminated the clearing. The tendrils recoiled, hissing as they met her light. She felt the connection with Zarkon strengthen, their energies intertwining, creating a powerful barrier. "Good, keep it steady," Zarkon urged, his voice resonating with confidence. Elena focused harder, pouring every ounce of her willpower into the shield. The darkness writhed against the barrier, shrieking with a sound that echoed in her bones, a cacophony of despair and rage. She could feel the weight of it trying to seep through her defenses, and she began to tremble under the strain. "You can do this, don't let it break you," Zarkon shouted, his voice fierce and unwavering. With a primal roar, Elena pushed back with all her strength, channeling her fear and anger into the light. The shield flared brightly, pushing the darkness further away. It screeched, a sound that sent chills racing down her spine, but she stood firm. The light expanded, forcing the dark tendrils to retreat, twisting back into the shadows from which they came. But even as she triumphed over the immediate threat, Elena sensed that this was just the beginning. The darkness was not gone. It was merely retreating, biding its time. When the clearing fell silent, the air clearing of its malevolence, Elena sank to her knees, breathless and trembling. "I did it," she gasped, disbelief washing over her. "I really did it." Zarkon knelt beside her, a proud smile breaking across his face. "You did. You faced it head on and emerged victorious. This is only the beginning, Elena. You are becoming stronger every day." The exhilaration of victory surged through her, but so did the understanding of what lay ahead. She would have to face this darkness again and again, growing stronger with each encounter. But now she knew she had the power within her to fight back, to protect not only herself, but the people she loved. "What happens now?" she asked, her heart still racing. "We prepare," Zarkon said, his expression serious once more. "There will be more attacks, more confrontations. You must continue to train, to grow, and we must find allies, people who can help us in the fight against this darkness. You cannot do it alone." Elena nodded, determination settling in her bones. She was ready to embrace her new role, to fight alongside Zarkon, to gather those who would stand against the darkness that threatened their world. The journey ahead would not be easy, but she would face it with the strength of her newfound powers and the bond she had forged with Zarkon. "We'll do this together," she thought, a sense of resolve solidifying within her. Zarkon smiled, the colors of his skin shifting to bright shades of green and gold, reflecting his pride and belief in her. Together they would stand against the encroaching darkness, and together they would find a way to protect Eldridge Hollow, and perhaps even Zephyra. The weeks that followed the confrontation with the darkness were a whirlwind of activity for Elena and Zarkon. The once tranquil nights in Eldridge Hollow transformed into a series of training sessions, strategy discussions, and quiet moments filled with the weight of their mission. Elena's powers continued to grow, but so did the feeling of urgency that coursed through her. One chilly evening, after a particularly intense training session, they settled in the clearing beneath the ancient oak tree. The stars twinkled brightly above, the air crackling with the remnants of their practice. Elena felt a sense of peace for the first time in weeks, but it was short-lived. "We need allies," Zarkon said, breaking the silence. His expression was serious, the vibrant colours of his skin shifting to deep blues and purples, revealing his concern. "The darkness is too powerful for us to face alone. We must find those who can help us." Elena nodded, feeling the weight of his words. "But who can we trust? How do we find them?" "There are others like you, people who have the potential to harness energy and fight against this darkness. We will need to search for them. I can sense them, but I cannot be certain of their locations without tapping into the energies of the land." Zarkon paused, a thoughtful look crossing his face. "The first place we should start is the local community centre. I have sensed the unique energy emanating from that area, and it may lead us to someone who can help." "The community centre?" Elena asked, intrigued. "But it's just a small building. What makes you think we'll find anyone there?" "Energy can be subtle," he replied, his tone earnest. "It doesn't always manifest in grand displays. Sometimes it's the quietest of souls that possess the greatest strength. We need to investigate." With their plan set, they decided to venture into town the following day. As they walked through the streets of Eldridge Hollow, Elena felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The quaint little town, with its friendly neighbours and cosy shops, now felt like a battleground, with unseen threats lurking in every shadow. When they arrived at the community centre, Elena noticed a group of people gathered outside, chatting animatedly. They were a diverse crowd, ranging from teenagers to older adults, all connected by a shared sense of community. As they approached, Elena felt a surge of energy emanating from one of the young women, an aura that resonated with a familiarity that was both comforting and exhilarating. "I can feel it," she whispered to Zarkon, her heart racing. "She has power." "Let's approach her," Zarkon said, his voice steady. As they drew closer, Elena could see the young woman was speaking passionately about something, her hands gesturing animatedly. She had bright blue hair that shimmered in the sunlight, and her eyes sparkled with a fierce intelligence. "Hey!" Zarkon called out, his voice cutting through the chatter. The group turned to look at them, a mix of curiosity and caution in their expressions. The young woman stepped forward, her gaze locking onto Zarkon. "Can I help you?" "I'm Zarkon, and this is Elena. We're looking for allies in the fight against the darkness that threatens our world. I sensed your energy from a distance. You have a gift, don't you?" The crowd murmured, a mix of skepticism and intrigue passing through them. The young woman crossed her arms, her expression shifting to one of curiosity. "What kind of gift?" Elena stepped forward, feeling a connection to this woman that she couldn't quite explain. "I can harness energy, just like you. Zarkon has been teaching me. We faced a dark entity recently, and we believe it will return. We need people who can help us fight back." The young woman's expression softened, her skepticism giving way to understanding. "My name is Lila. I've been practicing energy manipulation for a while, but I didn't know there were others like me." "Then join us," Zarkon urged, his voice imbued with hope. "Together we can strengthen our powers and stand against this darkness." Lila considered this for a moment, glancing at the people around her. "I'll join you, but I can't do this alone. There are others who have potential as well. We need to find them." "Then let's gather them," Elena said, her voice steady. "We can hold a meeting here at the community centre and invite anyone who is interested." With that, they quickly organised a gathering, spreading the word through social media and flyers. The response was overwhelming. That evening, the community centre buzzed with energy as people of all ages filled the room, their faces lit with curiosity and apprehension. Elena and Zarkon stood at the front, their hearts pounding with anticipation. "Thank you all for coming," Zarkon began, his voice resonating with authority. "We are here to discuss a threat that looms over us, a darkness that seeks to consume our world. We have powers within us that can combat this darkness, but we need to work together." As he spoke, Elena watched the crowd's reactions. Some looked skeptical, while others leaned in, intrigued. Lila stood by her side, a reassuring presence, nodding in agreement. "I know this sounds unbelievable," Elena added, stepping forward, "but I have experienced this darkness firsthand. It feeds on fear and despair, and we need to unite our strengths to combat it." The room erupted in murmurs, uncertainty hanging in the air. But then a voice called out from the back. A tall, muscular man with dark hair. "I felt it too. Something is off in this town. We need to take action." "I can feel it in my bones," a woman beside him added, her fiery red hair catching the light. "I've had dreams, dark ones. I've been waiting for someone to say something." One by one, people began to share their experiences, stories of strange occurrences, nightmares, and feelings of dread that had haunted them in the nights leading up to this meeting. Elena felt a thrill of hope surge through her. They were not alone. As the discussion continued, Zarkon began to outline a plan. "We will form a group, a collective of energy wielders. Together we will train, share our strengths, and learn how to combat the darkness that threatens us." With Lila by Elena's side, they organized training sessions combining their knowledge and strengths to help everyone harness their abilities. They practiced energy projection, emotional sensing, and protection techniques. The community center transformed into a hub of activity filled with laughter, determination, and a growing sense of purpose. However, amidst the burgeoning unity, a shadow lurked at the edges of their newfound alliance. As the nights turned into weeks, Elena began to notice subtle shifts in the atmosphere. The darkness that had retreated was not gone. It was watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. One fateful evening, while they were gathered for a training session, the lights in the community center flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The room fell silent, an unsettling feeling settling over them. "What was that?" Lila asked, her expression tense. "Stay alert," Zarkon commanded, his voice low and serious. "I can feel it. The darkness is near." Just as the words left his mouth, the air around them thickened, charged with a malevolence that sent chills racing down Elena's spine. Shadows coalesced in the corners of the room, twisting and writhing, taking on forms that danced just out of sight. "We have to be ready," Elena shouted, adrenaline pumping through her veins. "Everyone, focus on your energy. We need to protect ourselves." The group quickly moved into formation, forming a circle around Zarkon and Elena. They reached out to one another, pooling their energies together, creating a shimmering barrier of light. The darkness surged forward, a formless mass that writhed and screamed, hungry for despair. "Push it back," Zarkon commanded, his voice rising above the chaos. Elena felt the energy flowing through her, the connection to her allies strengthening as they focused on the barrier. They poured their hopes and fears into it, allowing their combined light to push back against the encroaching shadows. The darkness writhed and shrieked, attempting to break through, but they held firm. Elena could feel the fear of her friends, their uncertainty, but she also felt their determination. They were not going to back down. Together they were stronger. "Channel your emotions," Lila shouted, her voice rising with urgency. "Use the fear to fuel your light." Elena took a deep breath, focusing on her own emotions. Her fear, her anger, her determination. She projected it outward, merging it with the energies of her allies. The light around them intensified, shining brightly against the darkness, In that moment, Elena saw flashes of their faces, each person's fear morphing into strength, transforming into a radiant light that pushed back the shadows. The darkness recoiled, shrieking as it fought against the combined force of their energies. But the shadows were relentless. They surged forward, and Elena felt the strain of holding the barrier begin to weaken. "We can't hold it much longer," she shouted, her voice breaking with desperation. "We must stand together," Zarkon urged, his colors flashing in a furious dance. "Focus, we can't let it win." With a final push, Elena dug deep, channeling everything she had into the light. "Together," she shouted, willing everyone to focus. The light exploded outward, a wave of brilliant energy that washed over the darkness. For a moment, everything was illuminated, the room filled with a blinding radiance. Then, silence. As the light faded, they stood breathless, the shadows retreating into the corners of the room, hissing and swirling as they vanished. The community center was quiet, but the air remained thick with tension. "Is it gone?" Lila asked, her voice shaky. "For now," Zarkon replied, his expression grave. "But it will return. We must be prepared for the next time." Elena looked around at her friends, her allies, each one of them visibly shaken, yet resolute. "We can't let this stop us. We're stronger together, and we have to keep training. We can face this darkness if we work as one." The group nodded in agreement, their determination igniting a fire in the pit of Elena's stomach. They were united in this fight, and together they would find a way to conquer the darkness that threatened not only their town but perhaps the entire world. As the aftermath of the confrontation settled over the community center, Elena took a moment to absorb what had just happened. The dark entity had come too close for comfort, and the realization weighed heavily on her. She scanned the faces of her allies, looking for signs of hope amidst the lingering fear. Despite the victory they had achieved together, the threat of the darkness still loomed large. "We need to assess what happened tonight," Zarkon said, his voice steady but tinged with concern. "Understanding our weaknesses will be crucial if we are to face it again." Elena nodded, grateful for his leadership. "We need to discuss our abilities, what each of us can do, what our limits are. This darkness seems to know how to exploit fear, and we can't let it." Lila stepped forward, her blue hair shimmering in the dim light. "I can manipulate energy to create barriers, much like what we did tonight, but I can also create blasts of energy. I didn't realize it until we were fighting the darkness, but I can channel my energy into bursts." "That was incredible," Elena exclaimed. "You really helped strengthen the barrier. If we can learn to harness that energy better, it could be a game changer." The tall man from earlier, now identified as Marcus, joined in. "I have a knack for sensing disturbances in the environment. I can tell when something isn't right, like tonight when I felt the shadows gathering. If I focus, I might be able to detect when the darkness is approaching next time." "That's great, Marcus," Lila encouraged. "We need someone who can be our early warning system." Another member of the group, a quiet girl named Sarah, hesitantly spoke up. "I can see glimpses of the future, flashes really. I didn't think much of it until tonight. I saw shadows, but I thought it was just a bad dream. Maybe if I focus on it, I could help us anticipate what will come next." "That's amazing," Elena said, her heart racing with excitement. "If we can combine your visions with Marcus's sensitivity to disturbances, we might have a way to prepare for the darkness before it strikes." Zarkon observed them with a proud smile, his skin glowing with vibrant colors that reflected his approval. "Everyone's abilities are essential. If we combine our strengths, we'll create a formidable defense against the darkness, but we must also address our vulnerabilities. Fear can be a powerful weapon against us. We must learn to confront it head-on." As the discussion continued, Elena felt a sense of purpose wash over her. They were no longer just a group of individuals. They were a team, united by a common goal. With each revelation, she could see the potential within them, a growing force that could stand against the encroaching threat. But amid the excitement, a gnawing worry lingered in the back of her mind. What if their training wasn't enough? What if the darkness was too powerful? And after the meeting dispersed, Elena found herself standing alone in the center of the community room, the echoes of laughter and conversation fading into silence. She gazed out the window, watching as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky. It was beautiful, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that something more sinister was looming. "Hey," Zarkon said softly, stepping up beside her. "You did well tonight. You're becoming a leader among them." "But what if it isn't enough?" she admitted, her voice trembling. "What if the darkness comes back stronger? I can feel it in my gut. There's something more to it." Zarkon turned to her, his gaze serious. "The darkness is clever. It will use our fears against us. You must confront your own fear to overcome it. You cannot let it take root inside you." "How do I do that?" Elena asked, desperation creeping into her voice. "You must face your past, embrace the experiences that shaped you. Only by confronting your fears head-on will you find the strength to wield your power effectively." The thought of revisiting her past sent a shiver down her spine. Memories of her childhood, of the isolation and the stigma of being mute, surfaced in her mind like ghosts rising from the shadows. The pain of being misunderstood, the constant struggle for acceptance, those fears had haunted her for years. "I don't know if I can do that," she whispered, her heart pounding. "You can," Zarkon insisted, his voice unwavering. "We can do it together. I will be by your side. You are not alone in this fight." Elena took a deep breath, the resolve in his words igniting a flicker of hope within her. "All right, I'll try. I want to face it." "Good," Zarkon said, his colors shifting to bright gold, reflecting his encouragement. "We'll start tomorrow. It will be difficult, but I believe in you." As they made their way out of the community center, the night air felt crisp and alive. The stars seemed to twinkle brighter, as if encouraging her newfound resolve. Yet, even as she tried to embrace the moment, a sense of dread lingered at the edges of her thoughts, a reminder that the darkness was still out there, watching, waiting. The following day, Elena stood at the edge of the woods, behind her childhood home, a place that once felt so safe and comforting. But now, it was a battleground of emotions, a labyrinth of memories that both terrified and fascinated her. The trees loomed above, their branches heavy with the weight of the past. "Are you ready?" Zarkon asked, his presence grounding her. The vibrant colors of his skin flickered with anticipation. "I think so," Elena replied, her heart racing. "But I don't know what to expect." "You will feel the memories as they come," he explained. "Allow yourself to experience them without fear. I will be here to help you navigate through it." Taking a deep breath, Elena stepped into the woods, her pulse quickening with every step. The sounds of nature surrounded her, the rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds, but it was the memories that began to rise up like specters, haunting her with their presence. As she walked deeper into the forest, flashes of her past emerged unbidden. She could see herself as a child, wandering these same paths, filled with innocent wonder. But the laughter of other children echoed in her mind, laughter that had once turned to cruel taunts and whispers, leaving her feeling isolated and alone. "Elena, look! The mute girl can't even talk!" The taunts rang out, the voices of her childhood friends morphing into a chorus of mockery. "They're just words," Zarkon reminded her gently, sensing her distress. "They cannot hurt you anymore. You have the power now." "But they hurt so much then," Elena shouted, anger bubbling to the surface. "I wanted to be heard, to belong. I felt so powerless. And now you are powerful. You can reclaim your voice even if it's not with words." Zarkon's voice was soothing, wrapping around her like a protective shield. With every step, she confronted the memories, the moments of pain, the loneliness, the longing for acceptance. She felt herself slipping into those emotions, the fear and hurt washing over her like a tidal wave. But this time she wasn't alone. Zarkon was with her, his energy pulsating beside her, a steady reminder of her strength. "Face it, Elena, let it all out," he encouraged, his presence grounding her. She could feel her heart racing, her breath quickening as the memories surged. "Why didn't they understand me?" she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Why was I always so different?" "Because you were meant for something greater," Zarkon replied, his voice steady and calm. "You have always been different, but that difference is your strength. Embrace it. Let it fuel your power." As she allowed herself to feel the pain, the memories began to shift. The laughter of her childhood friends morphed into whispers of encouragement from those who cared. She remembered her mother's warm embrace, her father's pride when she finally signed her first sentence. Those moments were just as real, just as powerful. "You are not defined by their words," Zarkon urged, sensing her internal struggle. "You are defined by how you rise above them." The memories became more vivid, intertwining with her current reality. She could see her friends, those who had stood by her, who had accepted her for who she was. Lila's vibrant energy, Marcus's unwavering determination, and the solidarity of her newfound allies flickered into view, merging with her childhood memories. "This is your truth, Elena," Zarkon said, his voice breaking through the haze of doubt. "You are strong, capable, and worthy. Let go of the pain. You have the power to redefine your story." With a sudden clarity, Elena felt the weight of the past lifting. She focused on the warmth of her friends, the love that surrounded her now. She was not alone anymore. She was part of something bigger, a collective of strength and resilience. "I'm strong," she shouted, her voice ringing out through the woods, echoing against the trees. "I will not let my past define me. I have a voice. I am worthy." As she spoke, a radiant light burst forth from within her, illuminating the forest around her. The memories swirled like a whirlwind, finally releasing their grip on her heart. She felt free, unburdened by the shackles of her past. Zarkon beamed with pride, his colors glowing brighter than ever. "You have done it, Elena. You faced your fears and emerged stronger." Elena turned to him, her heart racing with exhilaration. "Thank you, Zarkon. I couldn't have done it without you. You had the power within you all along. Now you can embrace it fully. Together, we will harness this strength to face the darkness." As they made their way back to the community center, a renewed sense of purpose ignited within Elena. She was ready to lead her friends, to prepare them for the challenges ahead. But as they stepped into the clearing, a chill ran down her spine, a reminder that their battle was far from over. In the days that followed, Elena's confidence soared. She trained alongside her allies, helping them tap into their powers and strengthen their bonds. They practiced energy manipulation, foresight, and defense, all while sharing laughter and camaraderie. It was a stark contrast to the loneliness she had once felt, and for the first time, she embraced her identity with pride. But in the depths of the forest, a different kind of darkness stirred. Unbeknownst to them, the entity they had faced was not simply a shadow. It was a malevolent force driven by a hunger that could not be quenched. It thrived on their fear and anguish, growing stronger with each passing day. As the nights grew longer and colder, Elena began to have unsettling dreams. Shadows danced on the edges of her consciousness, whispering promises of despair. She would wake up gasping for breath, the feeling of being watched lingering long after she had escaped the clutches of sleep. One evening, as she and Zarkon were reviewing their training notes, she voiced her concerns. Zarkon, I can't shake the feeling that something is coming. My dreams, they're getting darker. I feel like we're being watched. Zarkon's expression shifted, his colours dulling slightly. The darkness is cunning. It will try to manipulate your emotions, to create doubt. We must remain vigilant. What if it finds us again? What if we're not strong enough? Elena's voice trembled with uncertainty. We will be ready, Zarkon assured her. Trust in the strength of our unity. Together, we can overcome anything. But we must also be aware of our surroundings. We should scout the woods and see if we can find any traces of its presence. The following day, armed with determination and a lingering sense of dread, Elena gathered her allies. They decided to venture into the woods together, searching for signs of the darkness. As they walked through the forest, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew heavy, charged with an unsettling energy. Does anyone else feel that? Marcus asked, glancing around uneasily. It's like the forest is alive, but not in a good way. I feel it too, Lila replied, her blue hair shimmering ominously. It's like something is watching us. Elena clenched her fists, her heart racing. Stay alert. We need to keep moving. Let's check the area where we first encountered the darkness. As they approached the clearing, the sunlight seemed to dim. The vibrant colours of the forest dulled by an oppressive gloom. The familiar warmth of the sun was replaced by an icy chill that seeped into their bones. Shadows slithered around the trees, twisting into grotesque shapes that made Elena's skin crawl. This isn't right, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. I can feel its presence. Suddenly, a howl pierced the air, echoing through the trees. It was a sound of anguish, filled with a primal rage that sent shivers down their spines. The group froze, fear gripping them, as they exchanged wide-eyed glances. We need to go, Sarah urged, her face pale with terror. This is a bad idea. No, Elena exclaimed, her voice fierce. We can't back down now. We need to know what we're up against. With reluctant determination, they pressed on, entering the clearing. The remnants of their last confrontation still lingered in the air, an oppressive energy that weighed heavily on their hearts. Elena felt her power surge as she focused, trying to sense the darkness that threatened them. I can feel it, she shouted, her voice echoing through the clearing. It's here. The shadows thickened, coalescing into a swirling mass in the center of the clearing. A figure emerged, shifting and writhing, its form distorted and monstrous. It had no distinct features, just an amalgamation of darkness and malice, eyes glowing like embers in the night. You dare challenge me again? It hissed, its voice a cacophony of whispers that echoed in their minds. You think you can defeat me? Your power is but a flicker against my void. Elena's heart raced as she stepped forward, feeling the weight of her allies beside her. We won't let you take our light. We're stronger now. Stronger? The entity mocked, its laughter reverberating through the trees. You are merely children playing at being warriors. I will feast on your hopes and dreams, and when I am done, you will be nothing but a memory. As the darkness lunged toward them, Elena felt a surge of energy within her, a blinding light fueled by her determination and the strength of her friends. Focus, together! She shouted, raising her arms as they formed a protective circle around her. The light erupted from her, radiating outward in a brilliant wave that collided with the darkness. The force of their combined energies pushed back against the entity, illuminating the clearing in a fierce glow. Fight! Zarkon roared, his voice cutting through the chaos. We must hold the line. Elena felt her heart pounding in her chest as she concentrated, channeling her emotions into the light. We are not afraid. We will fight. As they struggled against the darkness, Elena's vision sharpened. She could see flashes of her allies, Lila creating bursts of energy, Marcus sensing the entity's movements, and Sarah glimpsing possible futures. They were fighting together, a cohesive unit forged in adversity. But the darkness was relentless. pushing against their barrier with a ferocity that threatened to shatter their defenses. Elena felt herself wavering, doubts creeping into her mind. "Elena, focus," Zarkon urged, his voice steady and strong. "Remember your strength. You have faced your fears. Use that power." With his words echoing in her mind, Elena drew from her memories, her childhood laughter, her friends' unwavering support, the warmth of belonging. She allowed those feelings to wash over her, fortifying her spirit. "I am strong," she shouted, unleashing a wave of energy that surged through the barrier, intensifying the light. "I will not let you win." The darkness recoiled, its form twisting and writhing as it fought against the radiance. Elena felt the tide shifting, the shadows losing their grip on the moment. "Keep pushing," she urged her friends, her voice a rallying cry. "We can do this." With one final surge of energy, they broke through the darkness, the light exploding outward like a supernova. The entity shrieked, its form dissipating into the air like smoke in the wind, leaving behind only an echo of its malicious laughter. As the light faded and the clearing returned to its tranquil state, Elena collapsed to her knees, breathless and shaken. Her allies gathered around her, relief flooding their expressions. "We did it!" Lila exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. "We pushed it back!" "But it's not over," Marcus warned, glancing around warily. "It will return, and it will be angrier. We need to prepare." Zarkon knelt beside Elena, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You did well, Elena. You faced your fears, and you led your friends with strength. But we must remain vigilant. The darkness will not relent." Elena nodded, determination hardening in her heart. "Then we will prepare. Together. We will face it again. And this time we will be ready." As they stood together, united in purpose, a flicker of hope ignited within Elena. She could feel the warmth of her allies surrounding her, their strength intertwining with her own. They would face the darkness not as individuals, but as a formidable force united in their resolve. But even as they turned to leave the clearing, a chilling wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the ominous reminder that the darkness was not defeated. It was merely lying in wait, biding its time until it would strike again. In the following weeks, the sense of foreboding loomed over Elena and her friends like a storm cloud, threatening to unleash its fury. They spent every day training, honing their abilities and forging stronger connections. The camaraderie that had blossomed among them provided a flicker of light amid the growing shadows. But with each passing day, the darkness crept closer, its presence manifesting in subtle ways. Dreams that felt all too real, shadows that lingered a moment too long, and an overwhelming sense of dread that hung heavy in the air. Elena could sense the entity's growing power, as if it were feeding off their fear and uncertainty. One evening, as they gathered at the community center, Lila's energy crackled with intensity. "I've been feeling something dark and powerful. It's like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon." "I felt it too," Marcus agreed, his brow furrowing. "We need to prepare for whatever it is. We can't let it catch us off guard." Elena nodded, her heart racing. "We need to strengthen our barriers, to fortify ourselves against whatever is coming. We can't let it exploit our weaknesses." "But how?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "What if it's more powerful than we can handle? What if we fail?" "We won't fail," Elena insisted, her voice firm. "We have each other. We're a team, and together we can face anything. We just need to trust in our strengths." Zarkon's presence surged beside her, his colors brightening with encouragement. "Elena is right. Fear can cloud our judgment, but if we stand united, we can channel our energy into something greater. We must learn to harness our powers, not only as individuals, but as a collective." The group began training harder than ever, their spirits ignited by a shared determination. They practiced techniques to amplify their energies, creating layered defenses that would shield them against the darkness. Elena led exercises focused on synchronization, encouraging them to merge their powers into a single cohesive force. Days turned into weeks as they trained, the tension in the air palpable. Elena felt the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders, the knowledge that their fight was far from over. And as night fell, the shadows deepened, coiling around their hearts like tendrils of fear. One night, Elena awoke from a restless sleep, drenched in sweat. The darkness had infiltrated her dreams again, weaving a tapestry of despair and loss. She could see glimpses of her friends, their faces twisted in agony, engulfed by shadows that swallowed their light. Panic surged through her as she bolted upright, her heart racing. She could feel the malevolence lingering in the corners of her mind, an insidious whisper that promised failure and despair. You cannot save them. They will fall. No, she cried out, shaking her head to dispel the voices. I will not let you win. Determined to dispel the lingering darkness, she climbed out of bed and made her way to the community center. The moon hung high in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the path. She could feel the weight of the shadows pressing in on her, and with each step, her heart pounded louder in her chest. When she arrived at the center, she was relieved to find Zarkon waiting for her, his vibrant colors glowing softly in the darkness. Elena, what's wrong? He asked, concern etched on his features. I can't shake this feeling that something terrible is coming, she confessed, her voice trembling. I saw it in my dreams. The shadows. They want to take my friends. I can feel it. Zarkon stepped closer, his presence warm and reassuring. You have faced the darkness before, and you can do it again. We need to confront it head-on, together. As they began their preparations, the air around them thickened with tension. They gathered the rest of their group, their faces etched with concern, but also determination. We need to focus on our training, Elena said, her voice steady. If we're going to face whatever is coming, we need to be ready. We must stand united, stronger than ever. As they trained together, a storm brewed outside, dark clouds rolling in and shrouding the moon in an ominous veil. The wind howled, rattling the windows of the community center, and Elena felt a shiver run down her spine. What is happening? Lila asked, glancing nervously toward the windows. It feels like the storm is here for a reason. It's not just a storm, Zarkon replied, his voice grim. It's a sign. The darkness is drawing closer. As the wind howled, Elena sensed a shift in the atmosphere. The shadows outside seemed to thicken, coiling around the trees like a predator, preparing to strike. The whispers of fear echoed through her mind, and she steeled herself against them. We're ready for this, she said firmly, though doubt lingered in the back of her mind. We can face whatever comes our way. We have each other. As they gathered in a circle, hands clasped tightly, they summoned their energies, creating a barrier of light that shimmered around them. But as they focused, the wind screamed outside, a chilling reminder of the darkness that awaited. Stay strong, Elena shouted, her heart pounding in her chest. We won't let it take us. As the storm raged outside, the air crackled with energy, and the shadows danced ominously on the periphery of their protective barrier. Elena could feel the entity drawing closer, its presence pressing against their defenses, testing their resolve. It's coming, Sarah shouted, her eyes wide with fear. I can feel it. The air grew heavy, the shadows twisting and writhing as the entity coalesced before them, its dark form rippling with malevolence. You think your light can protect you? It hissed, its voice a cacophony of whispers that echoed in their minds. You are nothing but insects in my web, and I will devour your hope. We are not afraid of you, Elena shouted, her voice ringing with defiance. We will not let you take our light. The darkness surged forward, attempting to breach their barrier, but the collective energy of their friendship held strong. Together, they focused their powers, amplifying their light against the encroaching shadows. "Now!" Zarkon roared, his colors blazing with intensity. "Push back, show it your strength!" With a surge of energy, they unleashed a wave of light that collided with the darkness, illuminating the stormy night. The shadows screamed as they were pushed back, but the entity twisted and writhed, relentless in its pursuit. "You cannot defeat me, I will return," it screeched, its voice echoing in their minds as it dissipated into the storm, leaving behind an unsettling silence. As the storm began to subside, Elena's heart raced with adrenaline and fear. They had fought back, but the darkness was still out there, waiting for the right moment to strike again. "We need to regroup," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "We need to find a way to strengthen our defenses. This battle isn't over yet." As they gathered themselves, the storm clouds slowly parted, revealing a faint glimmer of light breaking through the darkness. It was a small victory, but it was a reminder that hope still existed, even in the face of overwhelming odds. In the aftermath of the confrontation, Elena and her friends dedicated themselves to strengthening their powers and their bonds. They trained diligently, honing their skills and learning to harness their energies in ways they never thought possible. The community center became their sanctuary, a place of refuge amid the growing darkness. Yet, even as they trained, a sense of unease hung in the air. The entity they had faced was a cunning adversary, and Elena knew they could not afford to underestimate it. They discussed strategies, practiced their techniques, and shared stories of their pasts, building the trust and camaraderie necessary to face the darkness. But, despite their efforts, a sense of dread loomed ever closer. The shadows whispered in the back of Elena's mind, feeding her fears and anxieties. She often found herself staring out the window, watching as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to dance just out of reach. One night, after a particularly grueling training session, Elena found herself unable to sleep. She sat on the edge of her bed, her mind racing, with thoughts of the darkness that threatened to engulf them. It felt like a weight pressing down on her chest, suffocating and relentless. "You okay?" Zarkon asked, his voice a gentle balm against her turmoil. He had materialized beside her, his colors swirling in soft hues of reassurance. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I can't shake the feeling that we're running out of time. The darkness is waiting for us to falter." "Then we must not falter," Zarkon replied, his gaze steady and fierce. "We have faced it before, and we will do so again. Together we are stronger than any shadow." Elena nodded, taking a deep breath to steady herself. "You're right. We just have to keep pushing forward. We can't give in to fear." The following day, they gathered at the community center for another round of training. As they practiced, Elena felt a sense of urgency in the air. They were on the cusp of something monumental, and she could feel the darkness lurking just beyond their defenses, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "We need to focus on our teamwork," Elena said, addressing her friends. "We've come so far, but we need to be more synchronized. If we're going to face this darkness, we have to be ready for anything." They practiced various exercises designed to enhance their coordination, merging their powers and creating synchronized energy bursts. With each successful attempt, Elena felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. But as they trained, the sky outside began to darken, thick clouds rolling in and blocking out the sun. A heavy tension hung in the air, and Elena's heart raced. She could feel the darkness closing in, wrapping around the community center like a shroud. "It's happening," Lila whispered, her voice shaking with fear. "The storm is coming." Elena turned to her friends, determination burning in her eyes. "We can't let fear take hold. We've prepared for this. We're ready to face it." As they stepped outside, the wind howled around them, carrying with it the promise of the storm. The trees swayed violently, their branches snapping against the growing tempest. "Stay close," Zarkon commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We must remain united. Our strength lies in our bond." The first drops of rain began to fall, each one heavy with the weight of impending darkness. Elena could feel the entity lurking just beyond the storm, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. She steeled herself, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. "We're ready," she shouted, her voice rising above the wind. "We will not back down." As the storm unleashed its fury, the darkness surged forward, a tide of malevolence ready to engulf them. But Elena stood firm, her heart a beacon of light amid the encroaching shadows. Together, they would face the storm, united against the darkness that threatened to consume them. The storm raged around them, the howling winds carrying the weight of their fears. But Elena and her friends stood resolute, the light of their collective strength shining against the encroaching darkness. "This is it," Elena shouted, her voice unwavering. "We have come too far to let it take us now." As the shadows twisted and writhed, the entity emerged once more, its dark form more menacing than ever. "You think you can defeat me?" it hissed, its voice dripping with malice. "I will consume your light." Elena felt the terror surge within her, but she pushed it aside, focusing on the warmth of her friends beside her. "We are not afraid. Together, we are stronger than you." The entity lunged forward, but Elena and her friends joined hands, channeling their energies into a single force. The light they summoned was blinding, a brilliant wave that surged towards the darkness. "Together!" Zarkon roared, his voice a rallying cry. With a surge of determination, they pushed back against the darkness, their collective light pushing through the storm, illuminating the night with radiant brilliance. The entity shrieked, its form flickering as it tried to withstand the onslaught. "No, this cannot be," it howled, twisting in agony as the light pierced through its shadows. "We will not let you win," Elena declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "This is our home, our light, and we will protect it." The intensity of their energies surged, enveloping the darkness in a cocoon of light. It writhed and twisted, but the bonds of friendship held strong, channeling their combined powers into a single focused beam. With one final push, they released their energies in an explosion of light that shattered the darkness. The entity screamed one last time before it was consumed by the brilliance, its form dissolving into the air like smoke in the wind. As the light faded, a profound silence fell over the storm. The winds died down, the rain subsided, and the clouds began to part, revealing the glimmering stars above. Elena and her friends stood together, breathless and shaken, but victorious. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger than ever, united in their resolve. "We did it!" Lila cried, tears of relief streaming down her face. "We really did it!" Zarkon beamed with pride, his colors radiant and bright. "You have shown incredible strength, Elena. You have led your friends through the darkness and into the light." Elena smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude and joy. "We did this together. I couldn't have done it without all of you. This is our victory, and it's just the beginning." As they stood beneath the stars, a new sense of hope filled the air. The darkness had been vanquished, but Elena knew their journey was far from over. There would always be challenges ahead, but with her friends by her side, she felt ready to face anything. "Together, we can overcome anything," she declared, her voice echoing against the night sky. And as they looked up at the stars, a new dawn began to break, a testament to the strength of their friendship and the light they would carry into the future.